Sara Duterte's sudden exit from the party is part of a bigger strategy.
When she withdrew her COC, she didn't also tell us. Siyempre, nagulat kami, but we know that she knows what she's doing.
Lakas CMD President Martin Romualdez is not seeing any possible conflict between Mayor Sara Duterte and presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos.
I think Mayor Sara and former Senator Bongbong Marcos are good friends. They've been communicating. We're thinking very positively about this, no? In the middle of hopefully getting two very, very excellent leaders that can help serve the country.
This week is ending with some surprises that are sparking debates and a lot of discussion in how the political landscape is shaping up for the 2022 elections. What do Filipino voters expect next week? And even as early as tomorrow, maybe, we discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to this edition of The Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. With us online sa Maynila, si Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star. In Quezon City, Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5. And here in studios with us in Mandaluyong, Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs, happy Friday, happy last weekend before deadline for substitution.
Tatlong araw na lang.
Tatlong araw na lang. Ano bang... LCV, nakamute ka pa.
Ay,
Oh,
sorry.
take two.
O sige, pakiulit ng scoop mo. Ano yung scoop mo?
No, I'm not on mute. Anyway, I was saying, happy standby weekend for us all.
Ami, meron ka pa bang isisingit na panggulat bago tayo mag-weekend?
Hindi naman yung sa COVID muna bago tayo magpolitika na allowed na daw ang mga private and government entities, offices na mag-mandatory vaccination for workers who are not working from home, yung required na mag-in-person.
Yes.
So Metro Manila and other areas na mataas na yung vaccination rate.
Pero kanina kausap ko si Labor Secretary Silvestro Bello III and merong qualifier yan, di ba? The qualifier is basta sa area mo sufficient ang supply and access to vaccines. And Labor Secretary Bello was acknowledging every time you have a qualifier, nandun ang gusot. Because dito sa NCR, it's pretty clear to say, okay, may access. But what about outside of NCR? How do you make an objective determination na sufficient ang supply at access, halimbawa sa probinsya mo?
Right.
Siguro sa mga malalaking city lang muna. Or Metro Manila muna, maipapilot muna.
No, muna. Ibig sabihin, gulo muna rin, di ba, sa maraming lugar. Pero doon tayo sa isa pang gulo, di ba?
Hindi na gulo yun.
Hindi na ba? Malinaw na?
Hindi rin malinaw. Pero
sige,
hindi naman katakataka.
Sige. Akala ko kasi kung walang gulo, wag na natin imbitahin tong next guest natin eh. Kasi ito dapat magbibigay linaw sa atin. On certain aspect, particularly Davao. Let's begin tonight with political science professor Jean Encinas Franco of the University of the Philippines is here. That also with us, Mr. Earl Pareño of the Institute for Political and Electoral Reforms. And we have to say also, Mr. Pareño has written the book, biography. Not only on President Duterte, but on the Dutertes, let's say, on this current generation of Dutertes. Professor Jean and Earl, welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Okay, Earl, let's start with you. Dahil itutuloy nung huli ka nang nakausap itutuloy ang usapan natin. You said before, if I remember right, you said the calculation then was that Sara Duterte, let's say, was finding it hard to run for president, not just because of everything else that was going on in the presidential race, but you said everything starts in Davao. And you said, nanganganib ang Davao, they cannot take that for granted. And she was concerned that basically if she left it to her siblings, baka may tulog sila, as you said.
Right.
So anong nangyari ngayon?
It seems, sa naririnig ko, nagkaroon sila ng agreement with her dad, no? So, ready si Sara to run for president. Then, sa ngayon ay si Baste, the vice mayor, ang pumalit sa kanya sa mayorship, pero temporary yan. Ang naririnig ko, mag-exit si Baste, papasok si President Digong, no? To run for mayor. Dahil yun lang yung demand actually ni Sara. It's not, sa sinabi ko, Robby, sa inyo noon, na hindi ito political strategy lang. Seryosong dilema ito ng Duterte family sa Davao. Paano nila mamimaintain ang turf nila? Dahil risky kung ihahayaan nila sa magkapatid na Baste at Pulong. Malakas ang opposition actually ngayon na field, no? So hindi nila pwedeng hayaan yung turf na matalo sila dahil wala namang presidential candidate na siguradong manalo. Lahat diyan papasok 50-50, including Sara. So, inuna nila yun.
With that opening scenario, there's one national scenario that you're basically saying i-discount na natin yan. Because yung PDP laban supposedly is not giving up now on the scenario of di paninindigan namin Bongo Duterte for Vice President. So, tanggalin na natin sa usapan yan.
Dapat tanggalin nila. Lahat naman kasi gusto, ang iniisip nila, yun yung masunod eh. So lahat ng gusto ng Sara Bongbong ay gusto yun yung masunod. Ayaw magbukas ng isip. Yung Bongo Sara, ayaw, yung Bongbong Sara, ayaw magbukas ng isip. Yung Go Duterte, ayaw magbukas ng isip. Pero i-base natin sa reality sa ground. Yung mga medyo may nakakarinig, ano ba yung nangyayari sa pamilya na ito. Dahil lahat ng politicians may personal side yan eh. Hindi lang naman lahat yan political strategy. May kinoconsider palagi yung personal side, no? There is always a personal consideration to all actions ng politicians, gaano man sila ka-prominent.
Yeah, pero Earl, bakit hindi na lang nirekta na si Pangulong Digong na tatakbo na mayor? Bakit pa dinaan muna kay Baste for the next 3 days pa, di ba? I mean,
dahil ayaw,
sa Lunes pa rin ang deadline yan eh.
ang para sa akin, sa Lunes na nga ang deadline. Pero, I don't know, no? Yun lang yung naririnig ko. Ang isa din kasi, knowing Digong, sa tingin ko, it's really to control the narrative. Tignan mo ngayon, who's controlling the narrative? It's not because, very tactical. It's not because malapit na ang elections, kundi malapit na ang next survey period. They want to start, they want to end this year, yung December survey at the top. No? So they have to control the narrative now. They have the chance to control the narrative, and they're controlling it now.
So Earl, total, you're a keen watcher of Davao developments. Kung si President Duterte ang tatakbong mayor, you think malakas ang laban niya dun sa opposition ngayon?
Malakas na malakas. Totoong malakas si Roy Elias Lopez, no? Kung kakalabanin niya yung mga anak lang ni Duterte, no? Pero kung si Digong ang kakalaban sa kanya, malaki pa rin ang suporta ni Digong hindi lang sa mga barangay captains, maski sa ordinaryong mamamayan sa Davao. So, mas bigger chance.
Percentage-wise, anong chances ni President Duterte to return as
tingin ko
mayor?
70%, no? 70%. Malaki sa tingin ko ang chance ni President Duterte maging mayor ulit. No?
So pati yung yung senatorial run ko hindi yun enough to hold on to power for the Dutertes. Kasi siguradong pasok siguro siya ron, di ba?
Pero ano namang magagawa ng isang senador? Anong magagawa ng isang senador sa ICC? That's the main problem, no? Kaya kailangan nila magpatakbo ng presidente dahil may ICC, no? Ano namang magagawa ng isang senador doon ng isang senador Duterte doon sa pag-push niya sa gusto niyang mangyari? Wala. Definitely wala. In fact, sa tingin ko, ayaw niya Ayaw niya nga maging congressman eh. One term sa kanya, siya mismo nagsabi, palaboy-laboy lang siya, nagmumo lang siya habang nagsisession. Dahil hindi yan ang forte niya. Hindi yan ang niya. Gusto niya nasa legislative, gusto niya ng action. No?
So on the basis of that, hindi rin magsa-slide down to VP si Sara.
No, definitely not. Pareho, ang matagal yung pinag-uusapan sa naririnig ko ng dalawang kampo. Walang gusto mag-slide down. Prepared lahat. May mga headquarters na yan sila lahat. In fact, magagarang headquarters sa mga probinsya. No? So, nakagastos na sila. Kumbaga, nabasa na sila, maligo na lang.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, I wanna bring in on that note Professor Jean Encinas Franco of the University of the Philippines. Professor Jean, kung hindi talaga mag-slide down talaga is the presidency or nothing, Bongbong Marcos is saying the presidency or nothing as well. So, totoo to? This is really the scenario that you're seeing? Magbabanggaan na lang sila sa taas?
Well, it's more fun in the Philippines, as they say, no? So, and then we are again left with a president who's going to be a minority president, no? As the usual case. And, you know, the consequence is that whoever wins will have to consolidate his or her power via spoils and pork barrel, diba? So that's the consequence of this race, no, in which several people are actually running.
But to be clear, after we were talking about November 15, after November 15, wala nang substitution. Meron pa bang scenario of sliding down?
Maybe some people might just, you know, give up and endorse someone.
You're either
But
out of the race or not, but you cannot slide down anymore.
No,
from
you cannot,
wala na.
you cannot transfer anymore. You can only have involuntary substitution. Ibig sabihin na disqualify o namatay.
Okay.
Or somebody will just, parang sila Marojas no, ng Grace po, pwedeng yun ang pwedeng mangyari after November 15, right? Oo.
What
So,
happened?
yeah.
What's happening?
Ako, ang gusto ko, yeah, go ahead.
So,
Go ahead, ma'am.
Yung political competition walang structure. That's why everything is very uncertain, and that makes the electoral process very messy. Yun yung problema.
Okay.
Ano naman ang sarsuela ng kunyari si Bongbong, Sir Earl, kung ang sarsuela ng mga Duterte ay eto na nga, nag-unfold na. Yung kabila naman, meron ba silang knowledge niyan na actually from the start yan naman talaga ang plano. Diba? Parang, kasi ngayon nagsasalib sila. So gusto rin natin maintindihan. Ano ba yan? Are you part of this, parade? Or kunyari lang ba kayong lahat dyan? Anong end game? I mean, ano ba talaga end game?
Seryoso yung negotiations nila. Except na walang gusto mag-give in. Ang gusto ng mga Marcoses, maging vice nila si Sara. Dahil maganda yun May max base sila at saka may LGU si Sara. Malakas talaga yun. It's a formidable tandem. On the other hand, prepared na si Sara. Silang dalawa kasi may pera, may organization. So, walang gusto mag-give in sa negotiations. Walang gusto maging vice. Ang sa tingin ko, both sa kanilang dalawa, may parang once in a lifetime chance nila ito. Kung mapapalampas nila ito, ay wala nang ibang chance. Kung matatalo si Bongbong, wala na. No? Kung matatalo si Sara, wala na rin. So, they have to take this opportunity now.
Professor Franco, Martin Romualdez said today na tuloy pa rin naman daw yung talks nila for a Bongbong-Sara tandem. Kung hindi natin alam kung sino yung matutuloy. But ang interesting is the co-chairman of Lakas CMD proposed a term sharing between the two of them. Hindi ba? What does it say? what does this say about our political environment?
Yeah,
Ano yung
it's
niya?
absurd and disgusting actually to even, for someone to even suggest that, because it makes a mess of our democracy. It's like para siyang pandesal na pwedeng hatiin, di ba? And parang it also undermines yung pagiging sacred ng eleksyon, hindi ba? I mean, Filipinos fought very hard for it, especially women, no? Just to be able to vote.
Yes.
Yung mga OFWs, mag-a-absent sila sa mga trabaho nila para lang makaboto. Ngayon, nakita natin ang daming gustong magparehistro, madaling araw pumipila na, and yet, gagawin lang na ganito, no? Of course, yung legal, yung unconstitutional siya, pero it's really about the fact that parang walang walang pagmamahal sa bayan, whoever suggested it. And no wonder, walang takers na kandidato, di ba?
Yeah, walang takers. I mean, in fact, when I heard that, it really just seemed to me as a validation of what Earl was saying. Na wala kasing bumibigay, di ba? It really sounded actually more than, as you said, disgusting. It sounded desperate. But one thing I do have one question that I want to understand. I wanted to throw it to both of you. Earl, as somebody who understands the politics at ground level and on the regional level, and then Professor Franco, for whatever the big picture is, but what's going on with Hugpong ng Pagbabago? Unang-una, why did she have to resign from Hugpong? That would not have been a requirement. Pwede ka naman may regional party, pwede ka rin may national party. And even if you could explain that with some technicality, let's say in the Lakas CMD charter or whatever, kanina sa balita, yung Hugpong officials were openly saying they were really caught unawares. And surprise. So, what's happening there between Sara and Hugpong ng Pagbabago?
Yeah.
Earl. Sige, Earl.
Yeah, sa akin, two things yun eh. One, anong nangyayari ngayon highlights what's wrong with our political party system. No? Dahil nakasentro sa personality kasi yung political party system natin, it encourages political turn-potism, na yung mga personalities na devoid of any substantial programs. Kaya kaya nila bumaligtad ng bumaligtad. From KBL to LDP to ngayon, PDP laban. Pero pag ikaw kasi, Sara, hindi kailangan siya mag-resign sa Hugpong. Pero sa tingin ko, isa yun sa condition ng Lakas, bakit ang political party na sinasalihan mo, ang organization noon, yan ang magko-call ng shots. No? Dahil sila yung sila yung sa totoo lang na nakataya doon sa candidacy ng isang kandidato. I think part yon sa negotiations nila with Gloria Macapagal Arroyo na dapat mag-resign siya para lahat lang ay mga supporters nila, pero wala silang say doon sa magiging campaign strategy and how to operationalize the campaign of Sara. Lakas NUCD, lahat ang bahala noon. Lakas CMD.
Parang undivided loyalty, gano'n.
Yeah.
Right.
Prof. Jean.
I actually agree with Earl, no? And that's probably part of the conditions during the negotiations. And also the fact that it was handwritten, although it was talked about. So again, even if some people were really turned off, again, it was something that made people talk about it. So, di ba, parang yung iba maiinis, pero para talaga siyang telenovela, di ba? Kasi parang ang daming mystery, so ang daming conspiracy theories, ang daming mga haka-haka. And, ang nangyayari, overall, they're being talked about.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me bring in that particular point that you made in the previous program, that previous award-winning program, wag po. Just a while ago. You were saying kasi kanina na it's disgusting and it's so upsetting to see all these things happening in the past few weeks, but it seems to be working. It seems to be working, and that I suppose is a message, unfortunately as well, to politicians all over the country.
Yeah, it seems to be working, but I'm not saying that it's good, di ba? So
Yes.
parang sabi ko, wala mang gagawin man lang to ban this substitution because hindi ba pwedeng kahit man lang may residency ka man lang doon sa partido mo, hindi yung nagising ka na lang ng isang umaga tapos gusto mo nang lumipat at mag-oath taking and then magiging presidente ka. Tapos yung partido, wala man. I mean, how can you even begin to think na merong plataforma yung tatakbong presidente kung kakagising niya lang kanina, nag-member siya ng isang political party, di ba? So, dapat may residency, dapat man lang may ginawa yung party within the past 3 years, yung within electoral cycle, may activities, may membership expansion ba within the past 3 years, yung gano'n. So wala talaga eh. It's laughable, it's unfortunate, masakit sa ulo, pero yun na nga.
Pero Prof, well, yun nga eh, we don't like it, but it's working. So how do we move forward from there? I mean, if it's working, it's going to happen
It's working
again.
for them.
It's working for them. It's going to happen again.
It's working for the traditional politicians. Pero sa tingin ko, it's working tactically. Hindi yun magdidetermine sa outcome ng elections a few months from now. Sa ngayon, sa tactical, siguro magre-reflect yun sa survey sa December. Yes, maging successful sila dyan. But will it determine mananalo ba sila o hindi sa 2022? That's a very open question.
Okay.
Professor Franco, you mentioned parties. You think it's time to revisit our multi-party system? Kasi
Yeah.
wala na.
Oo. In other countries, wala namang legislation na sabihin na ganito tayo, two-party, or multi-party. Walang ganon, not even in their constitution. It just evolved out of their history. Tapos yung electoral rules nila, parang supported that whether two-party system or multi-party system, no? Sana merong reforms that that do not need to have the constitution changed, di ba? Kasi it's polarizing eh. So kahit ano mo lang incremental changes. Kaya lang yun nga, sabi ni Earl, paano mo siya babaguhin if it's working for traditional politicians, no? Parang yung political dynasty yan since 8 Congress, ayan na, nakahain na. Pero wala talagang, hindi siya nagpa-prosper. So,
Yung tanong ko nga, kasi sabi nila, it's in the Filipino culture daw, yung multi-party. You agree with that?
No, because if you agree that something is cultural, then ibig sabihin,
Wala na
you
magbabago.
cannot change it. And that's why we have political institutions, because the political institutions has to change so that it can better serve the people.
Professor, bago mo ayusin, doon muna tayo sa magulo. Mas masarap na kwentuhan yung gulo. Wag mo munang aayusin habang nandito kayo.
May story tayo ganun.
Bubuhin pa natin to. But Earl, I wanna bring in other characters now before we get into dito sa teledrama natin. Si Senator Bongo, I was saying in the show the other evening, for me, he looked genuinely hurt. He looked genuinely out of the loop and hurt, if not insulted. Anong basa mo doon? What happened with Senator Bongo? And ano ngayon ang play ng PDP laban?
Ako nga, natatawa ako eh. I was in Siargao when Bongo and the President, November 6 yun, no? Went there. They were there also. No, natatawa ako dahil very parang ang spirit ni Bongo was really high sa na-observe ko. Sa tingin ko may mga usapan na hindi niya nalaman amongst between Duterte, President Duterte and Sara. No, parang na-outside ako lang po siya. And it really, I think, hurt him, no? Tingin ko naman yung sabi niyang baka may i-announce siya a few days from now, sa tingin ko talagang hurt siya doon dahil sa totoo lang maraming lugar sa bansa na ikot ko, Visayas and Mindanao, ang daming Bongo tarpaulins. Gumasto siya talaga. Go Bongo go slogan. Silang dalawa ni Presidente. Nakaganyan pa sila, no? Yun yung sign ata nila nakaganyan. Ang dami niyan, nationwide, no? And
Saka may ad na eh. May ad na rin siya.
Maraming ads, no? Na itutuloy niya dapat ang ginawa. Then, all of a sudden, wala na siya sa equation. So, sa tingin ko...
So ano nga nangyayari doon? I mean, Ano ang backstory doon?
Ano yung bagong equation
si
according to
Bongo,
Tati Lutz?
alam natin na kung ano ang sabihin ni Presidente, yun ang gagawin niya, di ba? So, tight talaga sila. Pero ang nababalitaan din natin ay hindi nagkakasundo si Sara tsaka si President Duterte. So, ano ba talaga? And si Bongo rin tsaka si Sara, hindi rin talaga, I mean, di sila friends.
We don't see eye to eye.
So, anong nangyayari ngayon na backstory? Sino, kumbaga, anong planong alam ni Presidente na hindi alam ni Bongo? Yan ba yun na ultimately magme-mayor na lang siya? Ganun ba yan?
Kung pagpipilian between Bongo at ang anak, tatay pa rin si Digong.
Yeah.
No? Hindi natin maalis yun. Yun yung personal side ng isang politician. May ambisyon yung anak mo. Gusto maging presidente. So, susuportahan niya yon. Pag i-demand nitong anak niya na wala sa eksena si Bongo, maski gaano siya ka-close sa Bongo, tatay pa rin na damdamin ang yung
Mananaig.
Mananaig.
Kaya ako, sorry, hindi ko matagalog yung
Iiral, ayan.
Yun pa rin, iiral. No? That's the damdamin, naiiral talaga.
Yeah,
So, I think yun yung hurting sa kanya.
Yeah, that's actually also my thinking, no? Because at the end of the day, Bongo must have realized that, hindi siya yung tunay na anak. Di ba? In the telenovela. Paano? Parang gano'n. Hindi siya yung tunay na anak. And then he's just an outsider, no? He was useful for a very, very long time. But, this Duterte has to decide on a very crucial matter.
Yun ang quote of the day.
Kumbaga doon, seriously.
Maraming memes lalabas yan, Gino.
But kumbaga, on that point, seriously, the difference between Bato de la Rosa and Bongo was, Bato de la Rosa knew from the very start, ito lang ang papel ko dito, napag-utusan lang ako dito.
Placeholder lang ako, ganun.
Di ba?
Yeah, because probably si Bato does not believe in his own press releases, di ba? Baka si Bongo, naniwala na talaga siya na, uy, kaya ko to.
May quotable quote naman si Professor Ding.
If we go back doon sa July, seryoso talaga dahil tignan din natin ang isang factor pa yung mga Duterte supporters na cabinet members niya and other supporters.
Okay.
May hati din yun No? May iba dyan na ayaw kay Sara. Ito yung nagsusulong ng Go Duterte. In fact, in July, before the SONA, may 30 governors na pinatawag si Bongo na pumunta sa Malacanang at kinausap ni President Duterte. No? At nag-pledge lahat na susuporta kay President Duterte kung tatakbo siyang vice. Pero more than half nito nag-pledge kay Bongo as presidential candidate nila. 30 governors, no? Big provinces, no? May ganjang nangyayari. Ibig sabihin, sa tingin ko serious yung parang plano ni Bongo dahil sinusuportahan siya ng ibang mga local politicians. Then may dumating itong kay Sara at saka yung mga communications kay Sara hanggang nag-decide na tatakbo na talagang presidente si Sara. Doon, hindi pwedeng ipasok si Bongo as vice dahil hindi sila bati.
Magkasundo.
Hindi sila magkasundo. So, yun, tingin ko it hurt him.
Pearl, do you see Bongo supporting a Sara presidential bid?
Yeah, dahil hindi wholeheartedly, dahil sa utos ni Presidente. So, suporta siya. Imomobilize niya lahat ng resources niya at network niya para dahil inutusan siya ng amo niya, si Presidente. Pero personally, sa tingin ko, it's not wholehearted.
Kung hindi magkasundo si Sara and Bongbong both run for president and tutuloy ng PDP laban si Bongo as VP, you think Sara will support the bid of Bongo?
I don't think so. Ang tinitingnan ko pa nga, posibleng posible pang pumunta yon sa ibang mga vice presidential candidates ngayon, si Sara. Pwede niya namang i-open yung vice presidential tandem niya eh. Mas makaka-network pa siya sa ibang parties. So, vote-getting din yun.
Yun nga yung isang senaryo yung sinasabi ng allies na she might run without a vice president.
Right.
So, dahil party ng tatay niya yung PDP laban, si Bongo yung VP.
Yes.
So, susuportahan pa rin niya hindi niya pa rin susuportahan si Bongo.
Hindi siya actively magsusupport, pero mapipilitan sa Bongo na actively susuportahan ang presidential run ni Sara. Pero Sara supporting Bongo, I don't think so.
Okay. Earl,
What about Baste? What about Baste? Sorry.
Oh, hindi, sige.
No, I mean, okay, what about Baste? Wala na siya dahil give up na niya yung vice mayoralty race, di ba? Pwede pa ba siya bumalik doon? Pa tumakbong mayor yung tatay
May tatlong
niya?
araw pa.
Oo.
Nakikita ko kasi dyan.
Ano mangyayari doon?
Yeah, ang naririnig ko lang, reluctant candidate naman talaga. Maski sa pagka-vice, si Baste. Napilitan lang yon. Ngayon, he found a way out. No? So, pupunta siya doon. Bakit si Attorney Kitain, si Melchor yung pumalit? Dahil matagal ng administrator yan si Kitain ng mga Dutertes eh. Si Duterte, si Presidente, kung maging mayor uli, hindi kaya na talagang magpagod doon sa opisina.
Day-to-day.
Kaya kailangan niya may vice mayor na mag-a-assist sa kanya effectively. Hindi kaya ni Baste yan. Kaya pumasok yan si Kitain. Yun yung parang naririnig ko at saka reading ko rin sa nangyayari sa Davao.
Okay, we're speaking with Professor Jean Encinas Franco of the University of the Philippines and Earl Pareño, a political analyst, also biographer of President Duterte. Please stay with us. Earl, Professor Jean, huwag kayong aalis. Steady lang kayo. Kayo rin po, steady lang dyan. We'll need to take a break, but we'll be right back. Welcome back the Chiefs here in One News. Ako po si Robbie Alampay with Lucy Cruz Valdez, Ami Pamituan, and Ed Dengao. And we're speaking with Professor Jean Encinas Franco and Earl Pareño. And we don't have a lot of time left for this segment, but Professor Jean, I just want to know, how do you then see the campaigns? I mean, particularly between Marcos and Sara Duterte, kung kasama sila pareho sa presidential race, where I imagine people are giving provisions na down the line, baka rin somebody might get out of the picture and endorse the other and so on. But in the immediate term, how do you see the campaign going out? And particularly sa base supporters nila. Yung DDS and BBM, ika nga, bardagulan muna yan for the first few months. And how do they navigate that? That on the one hand, they have to campaign. On the other hand, they have to leave provisions for, hindi natin alam, kailangan tayo magkampi-kampi rin mamaya.
Ang nakikita ko kasi parang if you plot their base of supporters on a Venn diagram, parang meron silang common commonality kasi parang parehong yung supporters nila would probably want presidents who are would be presidents as parang children of strong men, di ba? So may pareho silang narrative. So hindi ko rin alam kung paano sila mag-aaway, let's say, no, yung supporters nila sa campaign on social media kasi pareho sila ng pwedeng ibato sa isa't isa eh. 'Di ba?
Earl, ikaw, what do you think?
Yeah.
Sa tingin ko kasi, pag pumasok na ang kampanya, ma-resolve na yung, ma-finalize na sino yung mga kandidato, hindi lang sila ang pag-uusapan. Yes, they will have to contend with each other, no? Tapos, pero kailangan nila mag-contend din sa iba pang mga kandidato.
Yeah.
And it will make this election more interesting, no? Kasi pagdating ng campaign, ang plataforma, ang lahat ng mga gimmick din, hindi lang ang mga plataforma, ay makikita na ma-expose na sa mga voters Kaya sa tingin ko, sa ngayon kasi ang pinag-uusapan ng voters ay sino lang yung may malaking megaphone na dala-dala. Sa ngayon, it's Sara and Bongbong Marcos. Sila yung may pinakamalaki dahil na-control nga nila yung narrative. Pero pagpasok ng elections, halo-halo na ito. So, ang kailangan natin i-monitor ay yung paano mag-act, paano mag-present ang iba pang mga kandidato, hindi lang silang dalawa.
Yeah. For me, what could probably be a game changer would be the debates.
Yes. But yes.
Sana maayos yung mga debates.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 3 buwan pa bago magsimula yung campaign period pero mukhang ang sese ng...
Parang campaign period din.
hindi pa nga pinal yung mga kandidato Substitute pa nga. Well, we'd like to say thank you to Professor Jean Encinas of UP Poli-Sci and of course our friend Earl Pareño, journalist and author. Maraming salamat for joining us tonight. We wish we had more time pero
Thank you.
Mukhang mahaba-haba pa itong usapan ko.
Thank you, Earl.
Sige, maraming salamat sa inyo.
Ingat.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Sayang, no? Well, we will bring them back.
Sigurado.
Especially after Monday. I'm certain we'll bring them back after Monday. Because Monday will be,
Yun na. Set na. At least for the next chapter,
alam na natin
kung ano yung papel ng mga pati yung mga hindi tunay na anak.
yun ang quotable Okay. Well, we bring in our next guest tonight. Joining us is Social Welfare and Development Spokesperson and Assistant Secretary for Statutory Programs, Glenda Relova. Magandang gabi, Assistant Secretary Relova, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening po.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hello, good evening po sa inyong lahat.
Good evening po. Well, for those who don't know, ito po ay National Children's Month. Tama ho ba? National Children's Month. Unfortunately, it seems that we have had a rise in the number of cases then of online sexual abuse of children because of the pandemic. Can you give us a briefer on how it is right now?
Yeah, there was a study being conducted by the Department of Justice. And dun po sa study na yon, sinasabi na nag-increase ang mga cases ng online sexual abuse and exploitation about 264% during the pandemic.
Wow.
Percent, that's percent.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Sino ho ang mga ano ang demographics, profiles ng na-exploit at saka profile ng nag-e-exploit?
Usually ho, almost pantay na rin tayo between women and boys and girls, almost. So, lumalaki na rin yung percentage ng ating mga boys na na-exploit na rin. And sad to say that most of the perpetrators sa profile po nila, yun talagang mga parents nila, tapos mga guardians, best friends. So, those people who are very much attached dito at yung mga victims natin, malaki yung trust dito sa ating mga perpetrators.
Ano po ibig sabihin natin when we say, I mean, how do we define by way of examples yung, ano po ba ang pasok sa online sexual exploitation?
So ang online online OSAEC is a complex phenomenon na multi-sectoral and multidimensional ito. So ito yung whether it is proliferation of child sexual exploitation material or what we call CSEM, whether it is visual or audio or a combination of both. So representation of minors under the age of 18 engage in sexual activity, engaging in lewd or erotic behavior recorded, produced, and published, which arouse the viewer's sexual interest. Another one is child sexual abuse materials or what we call CSAM. Ito naman po yung mga image or videos which show a person or a child engage or an adult person being depicted as a child, tapos pinapakalat po ito sa internet. So these are the two phenomenon po ng ating online sexual abuse and exploitation.
Kasama po yung yung mature people being portrayed as children. Kasama pala siya doon.
Yes, sir. Opo. Kasama po yun. So, yun po yung tinatawag natin na grooming. So, minsan yung bata, pinaprepare natin for this particular scenario. At meron din naman ng mga adult. Madami pong ganito ng mga adult na nagde-dress sila as a child. So, napoportray pa rin sila na bata. At yung mga fetishes ng ating mga perpetrators, na-arouse din nila because akala nila ay bata itong itong victim.
Asek, yung online sexual exploitation, it has always been a challenge to confront. Ano ba naman ang batting average ng bansa natin in fighting these menace?
Isa naman po tayo sa mga nag-excel sa paglaban natin sa child online sexual abuse and exploitation because we have institutionalized our partnership with different law enforcement agency as well as external law enforcement agencies. So, madami po tayong reports na nakukuha po natin, nagmumula po from law enforcement from Malaysia, from the UK, from US, and from Australia. So, in place po yung ating mga mechanisms na ito.
So, mga ilan na kaya ang na-aresto? For example, in the past 3 years siguro. May mga na-aresto na ba at na-prosecute actually?
Actually, isa po tayo sa best practice in the manner of prosecution. Even po yung pinakamabilis na resolution or parang paglabas ng decision, isa po ang Philippines doon. Currently, I don't have the data of how many were prosecuted because it was with the DOJ. What I have here is yung pong mga data po ng mga natulungan natin na case manage ng DSWD, yung may mga ongoing cases and we're providing them temporary shelters and the whole case management, assisting them from rescue until preparing them po para mag-testify sa court. So yun po yung current.
Asek Rolova, of course, as with any other crime, mas ideal na yung sana hindi umabot ng prosecution, sana preventive pa lang. Meron na tayong mga nagagawa. And given especially as you said that a lot of the exploiters are people who are actually close to the child, who are actually proud relatives, are probably, sabihin na po natin, nandyan na sa bahay nyo, or nandyan na sa bakuran nyo, or kapitbahay nyo, or whatever. How do we protect ourselves, our children, at the level of the home?
Unang-una po, kinakailangan magkaroon tayo ng massive campaign. So ipaalam natin sa public, ano po ba talaga itong OSAEC? Ano po ba yung mga epekto nito sa ating mga anak, sa ating mga bata? And also, we also have to intensify yung ating interagency collaboration and coordination sa lahat po ng ating mga providers. And also, we have to give them lessons para magkaroon po ng change of mind. Kasi usually, ang nangyayari kasi there's a principle of no touch, no harm. Parang ang nangyayari po kasi sa ating mga perpetrators, palibasa hindi nahahawakan, akala nila walang damage at walang harm na nagagawa sa bata. So usually ito po yung mga drivers mga kung bakit na-perpetrate natin ang ating online sexual abuse and exploitation. So we are also intensifying our barangay protection program para po sa mga bata, yung institutionalization po ng ating mga mechanism on reporting, and also yun nga po, kinakailangan maging aware ang ating community na pag may nakikita tayong something na hindi normal, like for example in a depressed area, you will see people frequenting itong ating mga money institution like yung mga Cebuana, Palawan, and then meron silang disc sa ibabaw ng bahay nila. So there must be something going on. So kinakailangan magkaroon tayo ng sensitivity kung ano po yung nangyayari sa paligid natin. And baka sakaling i-report natin, wala pong masyadong danyos kung magre-report tayo ng mga untowards incidents kasi baka makasagip tayo ng buhay ng ating isang bata.
Ano po bang parusa dyan? Sino ang pinaparusahan? At saka anong ginagawa doon sa mga ine-exploit na mga minors?
Sa atin pong current na batas, yun pong perpetrator natin, they can be penalized. Siyempre po yung kulong, and also may penalty po tayo na 2 million but not more than 5 million. So yung pong pinakamataas na punishment po regarding child abuse, ito po yung binibigay natin sa ating mga perpetrators.
At yung mga bata, I suppose nire-rehab, no? Or therapy? Paano? Kasi that's very damaging for them, I would imagine, no? To have been exploited by their own flesh and blood. If you say that most of the perpetrators are parents and, adult relatives.
Opo, syempre po ang unang-unang dapat natin na gawin is i-secure natin yung bata. So hanapan natin siya ng safe place para po siya ay makarecover, and then para din po ma-pursue natin yung case against the perpetrator. However, we are always looking into yung the next of kin na may capability na ina-assess namin para mag-alaga sa bata, because the best environment pa rin po sa development ng bata is within the community. However, kung malaki po yung threat sa kanya because there's an ongoing case, kinakailangan po natin siyang ilagay sa isang temporary shelter na maaaring sa amin po sa DSWD para po ma-perform po natin yung full rehabilitation dito po sa bata in terms of counseling and then preparation po para makapag-testify po sila sa court.
Yun nga itatanong ko, do we have those type of shelters? Do we have enough facilities like that? Kasi we talk to some people working with OSEC groups. Ang malaking problema daw kung minsan, in fact, madalas daw yung mga bata, ayaw himiwalay sa magulang kahit ina-exploit sila. And talaga sumisigaw daw, umiiyak kapag hiniwalay. And they don't know kung saan dadalhin yung mga bata rin. Saan dadalhin yun? Mawawalan sila ng magulang eh. Do we have those types of shelters?
Yes, we have po. And actually, we just opened one, ang DSWD po, which is talagang dedicated for traffic and mostly victims of OSAIC. But the DSWD has been operating 71 centers po, and madami po doon and nakikater para po dito sa ating mga children and women in crisis situation. And just like what you said, totoo po na talagang for us, even sa DSWD, and ang ilan sa challenges for us social workers is pag nire-rescue po namin sila, minsan sa amin pa sila nagagalit. Kasi parang hindi nila nakikita kasi na there's something wrong dun sa ginagawa nila because they were groomed to do such things. And then the fact na sa tingin nila is makakasuhan yung mga tao nga na kanilang pinagkakatiwalaan, nagkakaroon sila ng certain guilt feeling na sila yun yung magiging cause, bakit nasira yung pamilya nila, makukulong yung nanay nila, yung tatay nila. So malaki po talagang trabaho at social workers to really...
So do we have enough resources nga for that, actually? Diba? Kasi you will need experts there, diba? Psychologists, psychotherapists, I would imagine. And do we have enough of those?
A good thing nga po, there were lots of social workers and we have psychologists and we have partners also who are helping us, like non-government institution, just like the IJMs po. So sila po yung mga tumutulong sa amin, mga Save the Children. Opo. So madami po tayong katulong, and we have enough resources in order for us to rehabilitate po yung mga victims ng asaya.
Sec. Relova, nandun pa rin ako sa prevention and protection. I imagine the spike that you mentioned, 264%, if I heard you correctly, no? Yung sa spike na yon, that had to do a lot with, of course, COVID, the fact that we're all at home, plus even taking school online, di ba? Na all of a sudden, all of these children, even children that we didn't necessarily have to put in front of a computer for 5-6 hours a day, suddenly all our kids, all the minors are now in front of the TV, in front of their computers online. Nasa curriculum po ba yan? Ang safety and protection, safe behavior, is that part of what DepEd and our teachers are mandated to teach our kids? If we're gonna tell them you have to sit in front of a computer for most of the day?
Yes, sir. I believe na meron po tayong enough modules dito na ibinibigay po ang ating DepEd dahil sila po ay ating miyembro ng ating Interagency Council Against Child Pornography. And kami din po sa DSWD, we partner with UNICEF in order for us to have these information education materials na ibinibigay po natin. Pati po ang atin pong parenting, yung digital parenting lessons, ibinibigay din po natin sa ating mga magulang. Opo, pero totoo po talaga na talagang ang drivers talaga ng ngayong mga panahon na ito, number one is poverty. So ito po talaga yung nagtutulak talaga sa ating mga perpetrators para gawin ito. And yun ating pong free online connectivity, yung more screen time ng ating mga bata. So, and also the accessibility of the online payment centers na napakadami na ngayon, and yung knowledge nila sa pagpapadala at pagkuha ng pera. So, these are some of the factors po talaga na nakakapagpadami ng asaya.
Asik, what are the chances na yung 260% increase is actually on the low side? Kasi considering it's a pandemic, and I can imagine the difficulty of number one, monitoring, and number two, reporting all these abuses and violations. What do you think would be a more realistic number?
The 264% is based on the study po talaga siya. And I guess this is based on the actual reports that are being received by the NICMED and also by the cybercrime po ng ating DOJ. So the worst part of this is mataas yung reporting, pero yung amin pong pagre-rescue, medyo nahirapan kami during the pandemic. Kasi yung mobility po namin, especially pagka po ang isang area wherein nandoon yung victim ay under ECQ that time. So ang hirap po ng mobility namin na we really have to quarantine bago namin pasukin yung isang area. Tapos yun nga po, even upward, magkakaiba yung yung parang policy ng mga LGUs, hindi ka pa rin papapasukin. So minsan nakatakas na yung perpetrator bago pa namin mapuntahan yung lugar. So yun po yung mga ganoon. So kaya po mas mataas yung reporting ng cases. However, yun pong mga talagang nakaka-access ng service medyo po konti during the time of the pandemic.
Sec. Relova, we're practically out of time, but just to remind everyone, it is Children's Month. DSWD is reminding us to protect our children, especially online. Ma'am, before we end, if they have any concerns, complaints, or even just questions, where can they go?
There are several numbers po na po pwede po nating matawagan. Sa amin po sa DSWD, meron po kaming psychosocial support hotline. Ito po yung 02-893-19141. Ang atin pong IACAT, ang Interagency Council Against Trafficking, which is 1343. We also partner with Bantay Bata, 163. And then PNP Cybercrime 02-872-30401. DOJ 0285248216. So those are several hotlines po na po pwede po nating tawagan in case na meron po tayong makita na incidents po ng OSAE.
Ito pong mga numbers na to, para lang madali, just in case mahirap memoryahin yun, can they find this on your Facebook page? Can they message you on your Facebook page?
Yes, sir. Available po ito sa DSWD webpage at saka po sa webpage po ng Interagency Council Against Child Pornography or IACACP po.
Okay, Asek Relova, maraming salamat po.
Thank you, ma'am.
Salamat din po at
Ingat po.
mabuhay
Salamat po.
tayo.
That was DSWD spokesperson and Assistant Secretary for Statutory Programs, Glenda Relova. And that's all for this special edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.